Ronneberg is not a household name here. He should be. All he did was to help keep Adolf Hitler from building a nuclear bomb 75 years ago. Ronneberg was 23 when he fled Norway in 1940 when the Nazis took over. He came back to win it back, along with other Norwegian resistance fighters. Working with British intelligence in 1943, he and the others parachuted into enemy territory with one mission: sabotage a Nazi hydroelectric plant. Hitler scientists were using heavy water at the plant. That's water with a larger than normal amount of the hydrogen isotope deuterium to produce bomb-grade plutonium. Ronneberg and his team snuck into the complex and blew it up. Then they skied, that's right, skied 200 miles, chased by 3,000 Nazi soldiers, and they got away. Hitler's people never built a nuclear bomb. And Joachim Ronneberg was a hero to his people in Norway and to the rest of the world, even if the rest of the world has mostly forgotten about that now. Joachim Ronneberg was the last surviving member of the crew that carried out that raid. He died this week at the age of 99 in the homeland he saved. Ray Steele, RTV6.
Vitenskapen et edelt yrke. Selv har jeg aldri hatt noen høyere ambisjon enn å stadig vite mer. For 10 år siden så visste jeg ikke at nøytroner bar på en energi opp mot 2 millioner elektrovolt. Og da jeg fikk vite det, så tenkte jeg at dette det viktigste av alt jeg noen gang kommer til å lære. Men jeg tok feil. Det nok heller det nest viktigste. Skal vi sitte her og regne på formler, eller skal vi gå ut med våpen i hånd og kjempe mot de som vil ta det som vårt? Skal vi føye oss etter dem, eller skal vi bruke hodene våre? De gode hodene våre på å forsøke å sende dem hjem. Kjære studenter. Kjære vitenskapsmenn. Kjære mennesker. Valget deres. Men husk at det dere velger i dag, det vil være historie om 100 år.
They call themselves the Uranverein, the Uranium Club, the sole aim of creating an atomic bomb. Werner Heisenberg, the Nobel Prize winner, we still don't know how far they've got, but with this new order for 5 tons of heavy water, we have every reason to fear the worst. Heisenberg considers the heavy water essential for his bomb project. We're afraid. That's the reality.
Meine Damen und Herren, Professor Heisenberg.
Guten Abend. Ein energieproduzierender Reaktor wird sekundär auch Plutonium produzieren, was sich hervorragend als Bombenmaterial eignen wird.
Diese Bombe, von der Sie da sprechen, die eine gesamte Stadt innerhalb von Sekunden zerstören kann. Wie groß ist die Stadt, von der Sie da sprechen?
Wie groß ist denn die Stadt, die Sie treffen möchten?
London.
Um London zu vernichten, benötigen Sie eine Bombe in der Größe einer Ananas?
Meine Damen und Herren, Londons Untergang.
Tungton? Was skal tyskerne med det?
Dann werden sie auch schweres Wasser bekommen.
They've hired you because they want something in return. They want value for their money, results, and ideally something that explodes.
The target is the heavy water factory at Rukar.
The factory has 7 floors made of armed concrete. We need someone to get explosives into the basement. Gruppen får navnet Grouse og klassifiseres under strengt hemmelig.
Skal vi ut og ripe? Kan ikke hete noe litt mer barskt? Du klar?
Veldig.
They're gonna produce heavy water, they're gonna get the bomb, and that's gonna be it! The world will end as we know it!
Hvad det egentlig, I sælger til tyskerne, som så vigtigt, så anlægget bliver bombet og saboteret?
Prøv at lade dig,
pull out of the whole damn thing.
Mais qu'on place haut.
Vi kommer til at blive udstødt.
The pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the leaves are falling. 'Tis you must go and I must bide. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so.
A Norwegian resistance fighter who sabotaged the Nazi nuclear program during the Second World War has died at the age of 99. Joachim Ronneberg commanded the team that attacked a heavily guarded plant that produced heavy water, seen as essential for making atomic bombs. The operation led the Germans to abandon their plans and was later described as the most successful sabotage act of the war.
Incredible, what a mission.
Det var jo veldig kjekt at det fikk lese med på det.
Nei, det er
Denne kjelken her, den er såpass stor at vi kunne bruke den som sykekjelk hvis vi trengte det. Men heldigvis de andre.
Men var det noe dere hadde med dere fra England, eller var det noe dere laget her?
Nei, disse ble laget på England.
Ja, men jeg tenkte på selve kjelken.
Kjelken, nei, det var sånn som vi fant der borte. Det var noe hundekjelker som vi bygde, som Strømstad bygde sammen.
Akkurat.
Så vi fikk en bred ski. Den går omtrent ved sporet.
Avdukinga av statue av Joachim Ronneberg her i Ålesund i dag er noe mer enn en hyllest til en enkelt person. Det er, og det må være, en hyllest til alle dem som valgte å sette sitt eget liv i fare for å gjenvinne Norges frihet.
ready to launch one of the most daring missions of the war. The target was a power plant in Vemork, Norway. Early in the war, Allied leaders had learned of the Germans' production of so-called heavy water, a key component for the production of an atomic bomb. Many of the scientists who fled Germany years before believed their countrymen were closer than any other nation to building an atomic bomb.
Churchill and Roosevelt met in America and discussed the problem and decided that we have to do something with it. We have to stop the Germans producing it. And the only way of doing it was sabotage. They decided that you can't bomb it because you will get so many civilian casualties, because this is a very, very narrow valley.
The first mission, Operation Freshman, was launched on October 18, 1942. 2 gliders containing 40 well-armed and trained paratroopers were towed behind 2 bombers across the English Channel.
Of the 4 aircraft, only 1 returned. 1 of the tugs got back, but the other tug and both gliders crashed, killing most of the people on board. And those who weren't killed in the crash were massacred shortly thereafter by the Gestapo.
Giving up was not an option. A new plan was designed, this one using SOE officers from Norway. Joachim Ronneberg was a young Norwegian considered by his British superiors to be bright, resourceful, and brave. Ronneberg was brought to London and asked to lead a team back to Norway for a second attempt to destroy the plant. Ronneberg learned not only why the mission was top secret, but also of the danger he and his team would face.
Well, when I came down to London, I was told that the Germans knew the target and they were building up the defenses there.
The first attempt had relied upon force to achieve the objective. This time, the Vemork plant would be taken with stealth. To attack the heavily fortified plant, Ronneberg chose a small team of 6 Norwegian operatives. First, they would have to find a way into the plant. The building sat on top of a hill. A bridge across a deep gorge offered the only access. German and Norwegian guards were almost always on duty, though there were fewer guards at night. The team waited until dark, when most of the Germans were asleep. They descended the gorge and climbed up the ice-covered wall on the other side. Once inside the building, half the team covered the sleeping Germans while Ronneberg snuck further into the facility.
We saw through a window that there was 1 Norwegian guard in the room, and we took him by surprise. And he was standing with hands in the air.
With the guards inside the plant subdued, Ronneberg proceeded to set his plastic explosives. As he and his men worked, they received an unusual request.
When we were doing this Norwegian guardman, workman, suddenly broke in and said that he couldn't do anything preventing us blowing up the factory, but could he have his glasses, because it was so difficult to get glasses in over these days. And you would think in such a situation that you would answer, damn your glasses, but instead you dropped what you were doing, you were looking around the room and you found the box for the glasses and gave them to him, and he said, thank you very much.
Ronneberg and his men made their way out of the plant as the explosion ripped through the darkness. The guards' compound was far enough away that they didn't hear the explosion at first, and the men were able to get back across the gorge. The next morning, the Germans launched a manhunt. Ronneberg and his men escaped from Vemork, but the most difficult part of their journey lay ahead. Since no planes could land and pick them up, Ronneberg and his team had to ski for 18 days to the safety of neutral Sweden.
We saw quite a lot of people on the way, but we suspected people seeing soldiers in Norway in uniform and with weapons on their rucksacks to be Germans and not Norwegians. And that was true enough. We met people and they certainly believed us to be Germans. When we got to this hospital, we were asked to take off all our clothes and put them in a bunch And so we were invited into the shower, and there you had two very nice Swedish nurses with a bucket of soap and a brush, and started brushing from there and downwards. And it was quite a reception, I must say.
This act of sabotage by Ronneberg and his team, orchestrated by British intelligence, denied the Third Reich a key ingredient for its atomic program. Had Germany been the first nation to develop the atom bomb, the war most certainly would have ended differently. By 1943, SOE had evolved into the elite fighting force its founders had envisioned. SOE operatives had successfully parachuted into France and other occupied countries, set up supply drops, and recruited resistance fighters. They'd become adept at blowing up bridges, stopping trains, disrupting supply lines, and destroying communications equipment. But for all the success of Britain's secret war, the most important goal still remained: retaking the European continent. From the beginning of the war, Britain had been planning for the day of the invasion, and secret organizations were a big part of that plan. SOE, BSC, and MI6 would all play important roles.